Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a good one for you today. This is a follow up from the one I did yesterday. Trudeau in Napanee, Ontario. Though it is the question and answer period. So let's see what kind of shenanigans that our Prime Minister gets up to this time.
Trudeau, nice to see you. One of the two men charged with plotting the terror attack in Toronto came to Canada from abroad and became a Canadian citizen after allegedly appearing in an ISIS video dismembering a prisoner. Can you tell us when and how he came to Canada?
This is obviously a very serious situation that the Minister of Public Safety is ensuring there are a full follow-up and understanding on exactly how this happened. I know investigations are ongoing, and the Minister will share all that we learned in the appropriate moment. But we're taking this extremely seriously because Canadians need to have confidence in our immigration system and on the millions of people who've come here over the past years to build a better life for themselves and their future. We need to make sure everything is done to keep Canadians safe.
Is the issue that you are not sure as to how this person came to Canada, or just not willing to share at this point what you know?
We are proceeding in a proper and thorough investigation on exactly how this happened, and we will share with Canadians at the appropriate moment.
So he's not going to actually tell us until they get their story straight. I'm pretty sure they already know how he came, but there was that massive story that broke, I think it was in 2022, where they just realized that we had more migrants who came to Canada than they wrote down. So this guy was probably one of them, right? When you let 2 million in, and you may have lost a couple 100,000 along the way, because that's what they had a whole investigation about this. That was the whole investigation, and yeah. He was probably one of the couple 100,000 that slipped through and the Canadian government just lost. So, shows you how well our vetting system is for who are letting into our beautiful country.
Thank you. Next question.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau, Fanny Olivier de Radio-Canada.
Mr. Trudeau, Radio-Canada, I'd like to know whether you have spoken with your Quebec Lieutenant Pablo Rodriguez, since we know that he's thinking of running for the Liberal Party of Quebec. Everyone to decide on a question on the Near East. We now with
Thorough investigation on exactly how this happened.
I've spoken with your Quebec Lieutenant Pablo Rodriguez, since we know that he's thinking of running for the...
Sorry about that. I was gonna skip it because it was French, but then when I heard that there was English inside, I'll just play through. I probably won't have any comments on this because I have no clue about Quebec's political situation.
Liberal Party of Quebec leadership race. I've worked with Pablo for a long time. He's been extraordinary. He is extraordinary. He's served Canadians and Quebecers with verve and excellent ability. It's up to everyone to decide on their political future. I'm certainly happy to have Pablo by my side as Minister of Transport. When it comes to anything else, you'll have to ask Pablo himself. But he and I have great conversations regularly. A question on the Near East. We now know that National Defence has deployed resources in Cyprus. What is your plan to evacuate Canadians from Lebanon? And what kind of signal are you expecting? I have to point out that Canadians in Lebanon will need to come back to Canada immediately, and people should not be traveling to Lebanon. We know that the situation in Lebanon, in the region, is extremely serious. We are envisaging a number of preparations, but should there be an escalation, should there be violence in and around Lebanon, we may not be able to evacuate everyone. So every Canadian now has the responsibility of doing everything they can to come back here, or at least to leave Lebanon while airports remain open. We are monitoring the entire region very closely with our partners. We're ready to do what's needed should there be any incidents, but Canadians should not be in the Near East at the moment.
Is Canadians should not be traveling to Lebanon. We've had that travel advisory up for many weeks now, and any Canadians there in Lebanon should be coming home. We see that the risk of escalation is real. The challenges in the region are significant. We are making certain preparations to be able to support in the event that everything gets much, much worse, but the situation is so difficult that we may not be able to get all Canadians out. That's why while the airports are still open, while there is an opportunity, we're encouraging and asking all Canadians to please leave Lebanon while there are commercial routes available.
Next question.
Well, that's good. At least they're learning from Afghanistan, the debacle that was, even though the United States pulled out pretty much out of nowhere. At least now we know that something's going to happen, and Canadians on the ground can plan and get out as soon as possible. So we hopefully won't leave anybody there. That's all I can say about Lebanon. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, so let's continue.
Prime Minister, since June's by-election loss in Toronto, many in your caucus have called for change, whether that's to party leadership or to your senior staff or perhaps the caucus. You've had some time to think about this for the last 6 weeks, presumably. Can you tell me whether you're planning on implementing any changes that your caucus is looking for?
Well, one of the things that we've been focused on, not just over the past few weeks, but over the past many years, is making sure we're investing in Canadians. This announcement today is a great example of how, from local MPs to ministers, we've all been working together to build a strong economy for the future at a time where Canadians are rightly concerned about this. And the conversations I have with members of my team leave me more optimistic and more focused than ever on fighting for Canadians every step of the way. We're going to continue to make sure that we're putting Canadians first in everything we do. That's the conversations I've had, and that's the commitment I've made to Canadians.
As a government, we're focused on building a stronger economy as well as opportunities for all Canadians. That is the work we do as a team. We're always there. We're always ready to make adjustments to stay on track and deliver for Canadians. But I am going to continue doing that in the months and years to come.
So there's going to be no changes. That's what he's in the Toronto by-election that they lost will bring about nothing. Because I haven't heard anything about Chrystia Freeland being let go for Mark Carney for the longest time. Nobody else was sort of blamed for the loss. There has been no call for, the cabinet hasn't gotten together for a meeting about it yet. So these are lowball questions right here. Except for the first one. First one was pretty good. I mean, most definitely. That guy's been paying attention.
Human Rights Commissioner as a breath of fresh air, and I now understand he has agreed to resign. He's just issued a statement talking about believing in the Commission's work, mandate, importance to democracy. What happened here? Why did he resign? What does the report say about him? What was he in fact doing what he was accused of doing by various Jewish human rights advocacy groups?
First of all, it's really important to get the right people in the right jobs, and I know the Minister of Justice will be holding a press avail to talk more about this situation in the coming hours.
Next question.
Hi, Prime Minister.
They quit that one pretty fast. Holy moly. So apparently the whole thing that's going on about that is a whole story in itself, so I'm just going to summarize it real quick. So he appointed this guy in the Human Rights commission who said a bunch of racist and rude remarks in his past when he was younger about the Jewish population. And Justin Trudeau thought it would be a good idea to make him Minister of Human Rights. I mean, it was a long time ago, and I'm just playing devil's advocate there. But come on, Trudeau. There's got to be some vetting, and I guess from the story there was. And some debacle happened with his name that sort of threw them off. So, but man, that is a bad look. Having a rights minister who made literal racist comments, and he also made some comments about the good points of terrorism. So really shot and missed there, Liberals.
I'm Michelle from the Kingstonist News. Umocore recently put their Stone Mills factory build on hold, and we were wondering what will happen to the government funds that were set aside for that project.
First of all, we know how important it is to be investing in the future. The EV supply chain is something that this government, alongside the government of Ontario, have made a real bet on, a real investment in. We know it's a new area of technology, new markets to develop. There are always going to be certain challenges, but we know that investing in Ontarians and Canadians and in the future is the right thing to do. In terms of specific companies making the right decisions, making decisions that are right for them, we'll continue to be there to work with them, but we're making sure that our investments go towards delivering good jobs and a good future for communities right across the country. And I can tell you that the money is still there for Umocore. None of it has been spent yet or invested in them, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with them, as I know the province is as well.
Hello, Mr. Prime Minister. My question is also kind of related to Umocore. You know about their announcement last month, and also you know that the Ford assembly plant was planning to start producing electric SUVs in 2026. Instead, now they have said that they will start producing gas-powered trucks. We know that Canada, the federal government, and also the provinces have pledged around $50 billion investment in the EV supply chain. Recently, some concerns have been raised. Maybe Canada jumped into the market sooner than it should have. What is your thoughts on that?
Canada has made the strategic decision to be a leader in EV supply chains. We have the critical minerals. We have the innovation, we have the manufacturing, mostly we have the workers that are drawing in investments from around the world. This is a nascent technology, a nascent industry. There are going to be challenges along the way. But knowing that Canada has positioned itself as #1 in the world in EV supply chains, according to Bloomberg, as the place to invest, has shown that we are making the right bet on the future. We know that climate change is real. We know that electric vehicles are going to be essential for the future. And the choices that we've made as a government has ensured that Canada will be part of it. I know there's a lot of people who wouldn't have made that choice. The Conservative Party of Canada has said very clearly it would not have made this choice of investing in EVs, investing in workers. But the reality is, as a great Canadian once said, you need to go where the puck is going. The global economy is going towards net zero. Manufacturing is going towards electric vehicles. And with great partnership from the Government of Ontario, Canada has positioned itself to be a leader in the EV industry, and we will continue to be, because those are where the jobs are going to be. Not just a couple of years from now, but a decade from now, a generation from now, and over the coming decades.
So the reporter just told him that Ford, who made a commitment to 50,000 EV vehicles by 2026, just pulled back from that and said they're going to be putting in not gas-powered cars, but they were going to be investing in gas-powered trucks. So like gas-guzzling trucks. That should say something to you, Trudeau, that, oh, maybe we shouldn't be investing in this right now. Maybe we're too early. We're too ahead of the curve. Maybe people don't want these EV vehicles. But, I mean, the government, it's not the government's money, right? They have, in their view, they have a flush amount of it to give to anyone. So it doesn't matter if they waste all this money on EV vehicles that aren't going to be good enough. And that's exactly what the Ford Motor Company and GM have said, is we're not making any more EV vehicles because the technology is not there with batteries. And if we make those vehicles now, in later years, when the technology changes, the batteries are going to be completely different because they'll have to be because of the cold. And then they'll have to either modify all of their cars or they'll just have to scrap all of their cars again. I don't know enough about electric vehicles to know whether they can be, like, an existing car can be modified to put a new, bigger battery in, or if you'd have to buy a whole new vehicle. But that's what they said, and that's what they said is the reason why they're not building any more vehicles. So, but it seems like Justin Trudeau is just going to pump more money in, and hopefully people buy them.
Mr. Prime Minister, my next question is about Venezuela. We know that Canada has expressed concerns about the election results out there, but my question is that why Canada has not joined the United States to declare that President Maduro did not win the elections, and why Canada has not imposed any sanctions on Maduro yet?
Canada has been one of the strongest countries in standing up over the past many years against the Maduro regime. We have, as you said, huge questions about those election results. We're calling on the international community to come together and demand a proper accountability. It is essential that the will of the people be respected, and we will continue to work not just as northern countries, but with countries in the global south, particularly across South America, to demand accountability, transparency, and to ensure that democracy returns to Venezuela for Venezuelans. Nous sommes extrêmement préoccupés depuis de longues années.
We're extremely concerned and have been for many years about the people of Venezuela.
News Ottawa.
So yeah, I think unless you've been living in Iraq now all these years, in Venezuela, they had their election, I think it was like a month ago, and one of the parties that was pretty much going to win, all the polls said it was going to win, lost, and Maduro, the dictator there, who, from what it seems like, nobody likes, won by 51% of the votes. And then it comes out later that the opposition party has proof that they actually won. So I haven't seen too much about it recently, not on X, not on really anywhere about the outcomes of it, but I guess it's still going on. But hopefully they can figure out what actually happened during the election, and then we can put in the leader that the people chose, not the leader that the leader chose.
First question is for both the Premier and the Prime Minister. The Ottawa Mayor has says the city is facing a public transit financial crisis, and they're asking for up to $140 million from both upper levels of government. So are you prepared to bail out the city in this situation?
First of all, it is really important as a federal government that we have good relations with municipal leaders, cities right across the country, and that's why I sat down with Mayor Sutcliffe just in Ontario in April at City Hall and we talked directly and frankly about some of the challenges that the city is facing. The federal government will always look to be a partner of municipalities as we move forward, particularly a municipality that's so geographically important to the federal government as Ottawa. We look forward to continuing to work with Mark.
Well, we have a great relationship with Mayor Sutcliffe and made a new deal with them. But, you know, we're in. If the federal government's in, they're the largest employer in the region. So I'll leave it at that. We'll talk to Mayor Sutcliffe and work with the federal government. Thank you.
Yeah, that would make sense that the federal government would input money because most of the people who are in Ottawa work for either the province or for the federal government. And they really need that increase in public transit infrastructure a lot. From when I was there, it only spanned from a little bit past downtown to about, how could I say this, maybe a third outside the city. It did not, and it didn't span any longer than that. They were making a couple more stations near Algonquin College and spanning further outside of the city, but even then I think they needed a lot in other places. But the problem they have is it's a really old city and it's a really historic city, so they have different different areas that they don't want to change. So it'll be interesting to see what where that goes, and hopefully it makes transit life way better for that. Personally, I think they need to do what I think it was Montreal was doing, where they built an underground tube between or underneath the river between some of their islands, or between like central Montreal and to the outside. I don't really know how to explain it. I've only been to Montreal once, so I think what they got to do in Ottawa is create a transit line that goes underneath I'm trying to remember what river it's called. I can't remember what the river is called, but it goes underneath the river straight to Gatineau, so they don't have all the traffic along the bridges. And I think that would reduce so much, pollution between the cities, to be completely honest. But let's see how that goes.
And my follow-up is just for the Prime Minister. Last week, steel and aluminum CEOs and opposition leader Pierre Poilievre called for the federal government to match the U.S.'s tariffs on China. Why has Canada not moved on this yet?
Well, first of all, it's a bit of a joke that Poilievre is suddenly talking about workers in the auto industry. He has said repeatedly that he wouldn't be making these investments in our auto industry. He wouldn't have invested. He'd be cutting our investments in EVs, in building an extraordinary EV supply chain in Canada, something that we've been doing as a government in partnership with the Government of Ontario and others right across the country over the past 4 years in a deliberate strategy. Bring in Volkswagen, bring in Stellantis, invest in Honda, invest in the EV supply chain from mines to manufacturing and recycling. We have been there every step of the way, and the federal Conservatives continue to say they'd cut it all. They don't support it. They don't believe in investing in Canadian workers. So him to suddenly turn around and say, oh, we're worried about EVs, that's baloney. He's looking for a political angle because that's all he does. But in regards to the CEOs and the steel manufacturers and partners in the industry, I can tell you, for the past many months, we, alongside Minister Mary Ng, our Minister of Trade, have been working with stakeholders, working with community groups, working with international partners on making sure that Canada's EV advantage remains. Canadians have invested in this future, and we're going to make sure that we follow through on it. So Poilievre jumping in front of the parade, or trying to, is just silly. We have stood up for Canadian workers in the auto sector. We will continue to stand up for Canadian workers in the auto sector. We will continue to make sure that we're using all necessary tools to drive a greener, cleaner economy, which means great manufacturing jobs here in Canada, more opportunities for Canadians. This is a conversation that we've been having for months, and we will continue to have to make sure these investments we're making that Poilievre would cut are well protected for the future.
Thank you.
You see Doug Ford's face there? It was just like the face of disgust as Trudeau was talking about Pierre Poilievre. And if you listen closely, Trudeau did not even touch that question. Like, the guy who asked it didn't even get a follow-up, and he didn't, like, why didn't he stop Trudeau and be like, I'm not talking about EVs. The question was about tariffs on steel, which we should have tariffs on Chinese steel. It's not better than ours. The amount that comes flooding in is brings down the price of ours. And from what I understand, I'm not too knowledgeable on tariffs and on the steel industry. If you guys are, let me know how it kind of works in the comments below. And while you're doing that, if you could subscribe, that would be awesome. And anyways, so I think it was a pretty funny way of avoiding the question by blaming the Conservatives while also blaming the Conservatives of distracting Canadians by trying to hop in on electric vehicles. So, when Pierre Poilievre has never said anything about electric vehicles except that he thinks it's not the best investment and said he wouldn't have invested in them. So, anyway, I believe that's all, but let's make sure.
Prime Minister, that can...
En français, écoutez, je trouve ça un peu ridicule.
I find it really absurd that all of
Yeah, so the rest is just the same thing in French, which I think I might have put you guys through before, so I'm apologizing for that right now. So yeah, that's all we got from Mr. Trudeau today. This is probably going to be the only time we ever see him until Parliament comes back in September. I'd be surprised if he shows his face again because he's been disappearing, reappearing, disappearing, reappearing. So I think a lot of his digs on Pierre Poilievre and about how he's hopping on the EV bandwagon is a little bit ridiculous as well. He hasn't really done that too much. He mostly speaks about the technology that he would invest in. So, like I said, nuclear energy, tidal energy. Pretty soon there will be plasma, so that'll be cool. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. Let me know what you think down below about all this. And other than that, have a good day.